We are about to uncover the craziest story in history. What happens when the most powerful man on Earth gets completely destroyed by a queen he thought was a total nobody? This is insane. This isn't just a battle, this was a promise. A promise of revenge from a warrior queen to a king who got way too arrogant. We're talking about how the endless plains of Central Asia became a graveyard for an entire empire's dream, all because a mom's grief led to one of the most savage acts of payback ever. This is Queen Tomyris, and the day she gave the King of Kings more blood than he could handle. Imagine being the most powerful emperor in the world. You've built the biggest empire ever. Countries literally bow to you. Your armies cannot be beaten. So you target this new land run by some random nomadic queen. You think, easy win, right? But then you make a huge mistake. You use a dirty, cheap trick to kill her son, and you basically just lit a fire that is impossible to put out. This is the story of Cyrus the Great, and how his ego led him into a trap he would never, ever escape. Okay, to get how insane Tomyris's victory was, you have to understand who she was up against. This wasn't just some king. This was Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire. By 530 BC, this guy was literally the most powerful person on the planet. I am not exaggerating. He didn't inherit his empire. He built it from scratch with insane ambition and genius strategy. He united tribes into a terrifying army and then just started conquering everything. He took over the super-rich kingdom of Lydia. Then he took the biggest prize of all, Babylon. The city of Babylon, with its unbreakable walls, just fell. But here's the crazy part. Cyrus wasn't just a monster. He was actually kinda nice. When he took Babylon, he didn't burn it down. He freed the Jewish people held captive there and let them go home. This ancient clay thing called the Cyrus cylinder basically lays out his policy of respecting people's gods and customs. To a lot of people, he was a liberator. His empire was massive, from the Aegean Sea all the way to India. They called him the King of Kings. He was basically invincible. And you know what happens when guys think they're invincible? They get greedy. He looked northeast to the massive plains of Central Asia, the home of the Scythians and a powerful group called the Massagetae. And it was right here, at the edge of his own empire, that Cyrus the Great was about to get completely wrecked. The world of the Massagetae was the total opposite of Persia's fancy palaces. These guys were people of the steppe, a giant open ocean of grass in modern-day Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan. The Massagetae were nomads, part of the legendary Scythian cultures known for being ferocious and absolutely insane on a horse. They lived in wagons, always on the move. They didn't build cities. Their treasure was their horses and their freedom. And this lifestyle made them tough. Men and women were trained since they were kids to ride and shoot a bow from horseback with terrifying skill. Their battle strategy was just like their lifestyle, fast, mobile, and they never gave up. They would hit you with a storm of arrows and then just vanish, luring armies deeper into an empty wasteland that would suck away all their supplies and hope. They worshipped the sun, and they sacrificed horses to it, the fastest animal for the fastest god. And ruling this insane nation was Queen Tomyris. In a world run by men, Tomyris took the throne after her husband died. She wasn't hiding in some palace. She was a warrior, a leader who got respect because she was brave and loyal to her people. She had to earn her authority, and she did it, uniting all the Massagetae tribes. She was a genius, a leader, and also a mom. Her son, Spargapises, was the commander of her army, a prince basically born on a horse. Tomyris knew her people, she knew her land, and she could see the biggest threat they had ever faced was coming right for them. Cyrus, thinking he's a genius, decides his first move won't be an attack. He's gonna try to conquer them with a sneaky diplomatic trick. He sends messengers to Queen Tomyris with a proposal for marriage. The great king of kings was offering to make Tomyris his wife and unite their kingdoms. To anyone else, this might sound like an amazing deal. An alliance with Persia? That means money and safety. But Tomyris was not an idiot. She had been dealing with crazy steppe politics her whole life, and she saw right through his plan. It was a trap. She knew Cyrus didn't want her. He wanted her kingdom. Marriage was just a trick. Once they were married, he would be the real ruler. Her people would be swallowed up, their freedom gone, all without a single fight. Her rejection was instant and savage. She basically told the messengers to tell Cyrus to stay in his lane and let her rule her own kingdom. She looked the most powerful man in the world in the eye and said, "No." Cyrus, his ego completely bruised and his genius plan destroyed, now had a choice. Listen to her, or just take what he wanted with his army. One of his advisors literally begged him to be careful, but Cyrus's pride was on the line. He couldn't let a woman and her nomadic tribe punk him like that. Her rejection made it personal. Tomyris refused his hand, so he decided he would just take her land instead. He gave the order. The invasion was on. So Cyrus starts by building a massive bridge of boats across the river, the border between his empire and her lands. As his gigantic army lines up, Tomyris sends him another message. This one was basically a challenge. "Stop what you're doing," she said. Then she gives him a choice. "If you really want to fight, I'll pull my army back and let you cross so we can have a fair fight on my land. Or I'll cross into your territory and we can fight there." Cyrus, after chatting with his advisors, picks the first option. He'll fight her on her turf. He probably thought she was being arrogant and he could crush her in a normal battle with his massive army. So he moves his army across the river. But the Massagetæ did not play by his rules. Led by Tomyris, they used their classic hit-and-run tactics, smashing the Persians with lightning-fast raids and then disappearing. They were dragging the Persians deeper and deeper into their territory, stretching their supply lines thin. The first Persian attack was a complete failure. Frustrated, Cyrus turned to a dirty trick. This was a coward's plan. He orders a third of his army, his best soldiers, to go hide. The rest of his army, the weaker part, was told to set up a camp. But this wasn't a normal camp. Cyrus loaded it with luxury food and, more importantly, tons of super strong, pure wine. The Massagetæ mostly drank fermented milk, so they had no idea how strong this stuff was. After setting the trap, Cyrus tells the small force to fake an attack and then pretend to run away in a panic, leaving the camp and all the goodies behind. The trap was set for disaster, and the bait worked perfectly. A huge Massagetæ force, about one-third of Tomyris's entire army, was led by her son, Spargapises. They stumbled on the empty Persian camp. After easily crushing the few soldiers left behind, they found the banquet. Thinking they had just won a massive victory, they started to party. They ate the food and drank the wine. And because they weren't used to it, they got completely wasted, letting their guard down entirely. This was the moment Cyrus was waiting for. From their hiding spot, his elite soldiers swarmed the camp. It wasn't a fight, it was a massacre. The drunk Massagetæ warriors were in no shape to fight and were either killed or captured. And among the prisoners was their commander, the prince, Spargapises. When Spargapises finally sobered up and realized what happened, that his army was destroyed and he was a prisoner because of a cheap trick, he was completely ashamed. He begged Cyrus to untie him. Cyrus agreed. But the second his hands were free, Spargapises, who couldn't live with the dishonor, killed himself. When Tomyris got the news, her grief was off the charts. But that sadness quickly turned into pure, cold rage. Her son was dead, not in a real battle, but because of the Persian king's cowardly trap. She sent a messenger to Cyrus with a message just dripping with fury. She called the wine a drug that makes men evil and called Cyrus out for his deception. Her message ended with a terrifying promise. She demanded he leave her lands immediately. "If you do not," she swore, "I swear I will give you your fill of blood." Cyrus, thinking he'd just pulled off a genius move, literally laughed it off. He just heard the words of a sad mom, not the unbreakable oath of a warrior queen with absolutely nothing to lose. He thought the war was over. He was so wrong. The war had just started. Her son's death changed everything for Tomyris. She wasn't just a queen defending her country anymore. She was an avenger. That personal loss became a rallying cry for her entire nation. Cyrus's wine trap had broken every rule of honor, and her son's suicide had created a martyr. Every single Massage-Te warrior was now fighting for payback. Tomyris gathered every single soldier she had left. No more games, no more hit and run. This was going to be a battle to the death. She knew she couldn't beat the Persians in numbers or heavy armor. Her advantage was speed, pure rage, and knowing the land. She prepared her army for one final, all-out showdown. She let Cyrus push deeper into her territory, letting the overconfident king walk further and further into the empty, confusing steppe. She let the brutal land and lack of water drain the strength of the Persian army. Cyrus thought he was chasing a broken enemy, but he was walking straight into a killing field that Tomyris had picked herself. The queen made the king a promise, and now she was about to keep it. When the two armies finally faced off, it was exactly where Tomyris wanted it. The massive Persian army against the wild horsemen of the Massage-Te. The historian Herodotus wrote that what happened next was the fiercest battle he had ever heard of. The fight started with a massive storm of arrows. The sky went dark as both sides just unloaded on each other. The Massage-Te, who were master archers, fired endless waves from horseback, and because they were always moving, they were impossible to hit. For a long time, the air was just a blur of death, with nobody getting an advantage. When they ran out of arrows, it was time for hand-to-hand combat. The two armies slammed into each other with insane violence. It was a total mess of lances, daggers, and pure survival mode. The disciplined Persian soldiers were now in a fight for their lives against warriors who fought with raw, wild fury. The Massage-Te, fueled by grief and revenge, refused to back down. For a long, bloody time, it could have gone either way. But the rage of the Massage-Te, led by Tomyris, started to turn the tide. They fought with a desperation the Persians, who were fighting far from home for their king's ego, just couldn't match. The Persian lines started to bend, then they broke. The retreat became a slaughter, and the slaughter became a massacre. And in the middle of all this chaos, the unthinkable happened. Cyrus the Great, the king of kings, the conqueror of Babylon, the guy who had never lost a battle like this, was killed. He died right there on the bloody plains of a land he tried to steal. With their leader gone, the Persian army completely fell apart. The victory for Queen Tomyris was total, but she wasn't done yet. With the battle over, Tomyris walked through the field of corpses. It was a scene of pure destruction. The ground was covered with her people, and the invaders who followed their arrogant king to their death. But she wasn't looking for treasure. She was looking for one guy. She had her warriors search through thousands of dead Persians for the body of Cyrus. And they found him. The corpse of the man who ruled the world was lying broken in the dirt. Tomyris looked down at the man who killed her son and made her people suffer, and she remembered her promise. What she did next is one of the most hardcore acts of revenge in all of history. She ordered a leather bag, a wineskin, to be brought to her. But instead of wine, she had it filled with human blood from the dead Persians. Then she had Cyrus's head chopped off. Lifting his head, she shoved it deep into the bag of blood. As she held it under, she spoke to the corpse, keeping the promise she made when she was grieving. According to Herodotus, she said, "You destroyed me by taking my son with a trick. But now, just like I promised, I will give you your fill of blood." The bloodthirsty king literally got his fill. It was a crazy personal end to a war that started with ego. The destruction of the Persian army and the death of Cyrus the Great sent shockwaves across the entire ancient world. This was a complete disaster for the Persian Empire. For the first time ever, Persia's non-stop expansion was stopped dead in its tracks. The Massagetae didn't just defend their home, they cut the head off the snake. Queen Tomyris, having avenged her son and saved her people, became an absolute legend. She was the warrior queen who wrecked the most powerful man on earth. Her story became a massive symbol of resistance, a lesson that courage and smarts could beat insane force. She proved that the nomadic peoples of the steppes weren't just barbarians to be conquered, they were a major power. What happened to Tomyris after this epic win? We literally have no idea. History just goes silent. Her tomb has never been found, but in a way, she doesn't need one. Her monument is the story itself, a tale of defiance and brutal justice that's been told for thousands of years. She became an inspiration for artists and writers forever, a timeless symbol of a queen who fought, not for fame, but for her people's survival. So, the big question, did this actually happen? Our main source for this insane story is the Greek historian Herodotus. He was writing about it 100 years later, and even he admitted he heard a few different stories about how Cyrus died, but he said the Tomyris story was the one he believed the most. But other ancient writers tell a totally different story. Another historian, Ctesias, said Cyrus died fighting a completely different tribe. And another guy, Xenophon, wrote this glowing biography where Cyrus dies peacefully in his palace, which most historians today think is just a nice story, not a fact. Most importantly, there are no Persian records that confirm this crazy account. And Cyrus's body was obviously found because his tomb is still in Iran today, which totally contradicts the idea that Tomyris kept his head. Because of all this, some historians think the story might have been exaggerated, like a morality tale about being too arrogant. A story about a giant king getting destroyed by a barbarian queen was a super powerful message for a Greek audience who were always fighting the Persians. But even if the goriest details are fake, the main facts are real. Historians agree that Cyrus the Great died in 530 BC while fighting the tribes of Central Asia, almost definitely the Massagetae. Whether Tomyris actually dunked his head in blood is the stuff of legend. But that legend tells a deeper truth. On the edge of his empire, Cyrus the Great suffered a massive defeat from a people led by a seriously incredible queen. The story of Queen Tomyris and Cyrus the Great is more than just some crazy ancient tale. It's a clash of two completely different worlds, the organized, expanding Persian Empire and the free, nomadic culture of the steppes. It's a wild case study in leadership, showing the arrogance of a king who thought he was unbeatable and the unbreakable will of a queen who was pushed to her absolute breaking point. Tomyris's legacy isn't just about revenge, even though her payback was completely epic. She was a brilliant military commander who outsmarted and outfought the greatest general of her time. She was a ruler who refused to bow down to an empire and saved her people's entire way of life. That image of her shoving Cyrus's head into a bag of blood has lasted for 2,500 years because it's a raw, powerful symbol of justice being served and a promise being kept. In a history that's so full of stories about great men, the story of Queen Tomyris is an insane and timeless reminder that a ruler's will to protect her own people might just be the most powerful force on the planet. Tomyris' story is one of the craziest revenge tales in history, but I want to know what you guys think. Was her final act of revenge justified, or was it way too far? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you love insane history stories like this one, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next video. Thanks for watching.